Egypt, birthland of one of the oldest, mysterious, most powerful, and longest listed civilization on Earth, dating to around 5500 BCE. During the reign of Ptolemy II, priest Manetho divided the ancient Egyptian history to a different period. At the time of pre-dynastic period, Egypt was divided into two independent cities, Upper and Lower Egypt, till the founder of unification, King Narmer, the founder of United Egypt and the prototype of all pharaohs. Followed by the Old Kingdom, the Pyramid Age, by the founder of the pyramid concept, King Djoser, inspired all his successors. But all that great construction and successful period faced the first decline of the central government fall down and back to the pre-dynastic separated cities. King Amenhotep Nebhet Bra reunified Egypt once again, and he also the founder of the Middle Kingdom and the amphitheater temples at Deir al-Bahari. Sadly, once again Egypt faced a rough time, but with more darkness, with the Hyksos occupation, and with the Lord Egyptian blood, King Ahmose successfully expelling the Hyksos outside of Egyptian lands. Also, he is the founder of the new kingdom with the most famous king, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Hatshepsut, among to Ramesses II or Ramesses the Great, the leader of Kadesh battle and the founder of Abu Simbel temple, and with the longest number of wives and children in the ancient Egyptian history. The 20th dynasty ended with the death of King Ramses XI and
during the reign of Ramses VII, the Libyans settled at Western Delta in Egypt. Later on, their grand-grandsons ascended the throne of Egypt. A period of strangers ruling Egypt has started, called the Third Intermediate Period, where the Libyans were the second strangers to rule Egypt after the Hyksos during the Second Intermediate Period. Later on, the 23rd dynasty and the 24th dynasty that we don't know much about them. At the end of the New Kingdom, it was also the end of the Valley of the Kings, that housed the mummies and the treasures of the great pharaohs over 600 years. It was also the end of the Deir al-Medina, the workman village at Western Thebes, that gave us various information about the social daily life. But ancient Egypt will continue and live for a millennia, but with a different soul, with a different vision, from another point of view of other people. But something may have changed after the New Kingdom. Something would never be the same again.
Deep down in Nubia, a young princess was born. She was the daughter of the Kushite king named Kashata. This young princess was named Amarides, and she was destined for a great future.
However, the Norse was still in their sights, yet they needed careful planning. Later on, King Kashata had then died. His son and the brother of Amarides, named Bianchi, succeeded him and became the next Nubian pharaoh. An Egyptian prince from the city of Sais in the Delta did manage to take control of Memphis, but Egypt was still divided. Later on, King Bianchi launched a campaign to the north of Thebes and conquered Memphis, becoming the ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt and the king of Kush. Proof of that, the victory stela of Bianchi that was found at Jabal al-Barkal and now exhibited in the Cairo Museum. Then, Bianchi made an important decision that he would allow these rulers to then return to their cities as governors. He still ruled the country from Nabta in the south. Then, when he died, Bianchi was buried at El Kuru pyramids after he ruled for 31 years. Bianchi was succeeded by the eldest brother of Amarides named Shabaka. He became the next Nubian pharaoh. After the death of Shepen-Upet I, Amarides succeeded her to be the next god's wife of Amen, while King Shabaka was also ruling Upper and Lower Egypt. That means the Nubian had a full control all over the Egyptian land. King Shabaka did manage to defend Egypt from the Assyrian invasion, but this would cause major issues for the king who would succeed him. Then after 14 years of his reign, Shabaka died. He was also buried at El Kuru pyramids. Shabaka was succeeded by Shebet-Ku, the son of Bianchi. King Shebitku set his sights on expanding the empire to the eastern side. It's believed that he led a campaign against the Assyrians, which was unsuccessful and maybe even led to his death after he ruled for approximately 12 years. At the same time, Amerides I have died, and her adopted daughter, Shebin-Upit II, became the new god's wife of Amen. After the discovery of Amerides' tomb near Madinat Habu, her mummy was found and it went through scans, and now her mummy is exhibited at the Vatican Museum. King Taharqa succeeded his brother Shebitku to be the next Nubian pharaoh. Taharqa had the most construction work out of all the Nubian kings in Egypt, as his most famous construction is his pavilion at El-Karnak temple. Then Shebin-Upit II adopted his daughter to be the next god's wife of Amen, Amerides II. During his reign, he offered much gold to god Amen at El-Karnak temples. One of the battles during Taharqa's reign against the Assyrians, it went back and forth between the Nubian army and the Assyrian army that would go on and on for around 10 years until Taharqa's entire world would come crashing down as the Assyrian king invaded the northern Egypt at Memphis. The Assyrians destroyed the city and Taharqa's family were killed. Then Taharqa escaped back to Nubia. However, the Assyrians followed him, and there the Nubian king Taharqa was killed after he ruled for 26 years, and he was buried at the pyramids of Nuri. King Shebitku set his sights on expanding the empire to the eastern side. It's believed that he led a campaign against the Assyrians, which was unsuccessful and maybe even led to his death after he ruled for approximately 12 years. At the same time, Amerides I have died, and her adopted daughter Shebin-Upit II became the new god's wife of Amen. The son of King Shabaka, named Tanut Amen, would become the next Nubian pharaoh. He began his reign down in Nubia, then he made his advances back into Egypt to reclaim it from the Assyrians. He began marching towards Memphis, where he fought against the Assyrians, but the Nubians were defeated and Tanut Amen fled back to Kush after he ruled for approximately 8 years, and he was also buried at El Kuru pyramids.
The Nubian dynasty came to an end. The rule was less than 100 years. Bear in mind that the Nubian god's wife of Amen, Shebin-Upit II, and Amerides II stayed at El-Karnak temples even after the end of the Nubian dynasty. They didn't run away as the last Kushite king. They decided to stay and protect El-Karnak temples.
So according to that interesting part of history, did they affected our art?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We now in front of the first building built to be museum in Egypt, Cairo Egyptian Museum at Tahrir. This building inaugurated in 1902, so this building more than 100 years old. So let's go inside.
On the facade of the museum, there are 8 marble slabs recording the names of the all Egyptian pharaohs, with the exception of the Nubian kings, the kings of the 25th dynasty. This may be due to that August Mariette was racist towards the black people during this time. Inside the museum, the antiquities are arranged in a historical order in a clockwise direction from the pre-dynastic era until the Greco-Roman, with the clear development that Egyptian history witnessed in the different sizes and the details of the statues from one era to another. During the reign of the Nubians, even nobles had statues carved for them. And this statue is of a noble and shows Nubian features such as circle face, closed eyes, and the white nose, and the puffy lips with a different headgear. As for the statues of the kings, they also show with the Nubian features that we mentioned.
The stela of King Ba'anhi, it was found in Gebel al-Barkar, a temple of god Amen in Nubia nowadays. This stela describes the campaign of King Ba'anhi against the Libyan king of the 24th dynasty, and showed that King Ba'anhi was able to unify the country, and this scene describes the war.
In the middle of the scene, the great god Ammon appears wearing his crown with 2 feathers, and behind him is his wife Mut. In the front of them is King Ba'anhi, and he is erased and unclear. Behind the god there are kneeling people who are Libyan rulers and Egyptian governors, and for the first time The horse appears on a victory stela. This reflecting of the Nubians' love for the horses. For the beautiful woman of this period, we begin with Shebet Obed I, who later adopted Amun-Redis, and here Shebet Obed represented wearing the crown of the wife of god Amun.
This is Amun-Redis, and as Yahya said, she held the position of god wife for a long time. So this statue shows the tradition of the closes of this position. The statue found by August Mariot at Karnak Temple in Thebes, and it's made out of alabaster and the base made out of the black basalt. We can see she is wearing Egyptian crown and under it tripartite wig, and there are uri, and the function of these uri that protect the deceased during his journey to the afterlife. We can see also from her faith the Nubian feature feather, and in the end of her wig there are representation for god Amun. She also wears a tied dress that showed the beautiful details of her body. She also held a scepter on her left hand and the statue supported by a pillar. And all the statue showed the tradition feminine statue during the ancient Egyptian time.
We can understand the greatness of ancient Egyptian civilization from here. Our civilization was subjected to many invasions and attacks, starting with the Hyksos, Libyans, Nubians, and many of the enemies of this civilization, and no one was able to influence it or its art. Rather, it influenced and continues to influence the whole world until now.
So the Nubian didn't change much in our ancient Egyptian arts. What about the ancient Egyptian beliefs?
The ancient Egyptian religion is very large in reach. Each nome had its own beliefs and major deities. One of the most known belief is the creation myth of Heliopolis,
which started with the primeval ocean of Nu. Out of the chaos and disturbance, the primeval mound came up, where god Atum, a form of the sun god, stood on, and had created Shu and Tefnut, they who gave birth to Jeb and Nut, giving birth to the famous deities Isis, Osiris, Seth and Nephthys. In Thebes, god Amun Mut and Khonsu, the trade that the Nubians used to convince the Egyptians to legitimately rule Egypt. The Kushite king Kashtar sent his daughter Amenirdes to Amun's wife and the high priest of god Amun, Shepenupet, to adopt her and to be the heiress to the title of God's wife. She, Amenirdes, was represented by her adoptive mother, Shepenupet, as her successor to be the manifestation of goddess Mut on earth at the end of Karnak. By the death of Shepenupet, the new heiress Amenirdes became the god's wife and the high priestess of temples of Amun in Thebes. She adopted her brother's daughter and named her after her adoptive mother, Shepenupet II, to keep the line of the high priestesses and seize the control over Thebes. Amenirdes had died, leaving her niece, Shepenupet II, to be the new god's wife. King Taharka had a daughter who was named after Amenirdes. Amenirdes II was adopted by Shepenupet II, named her as the heiress of the title of Hamet Nether, or God's wife. After the Assyrian invasion, the Assyrian king couldn't get rid of Shepenupet II as she was still in Karnak Temple.
By the beginning of the 26th dynasty, the Egyptian king Basmatic I sent his daughter Nitocris to Amenirdes II to be the upcoming god's wife.
As we understand, the Nubians did not affect the ancient Egyptian religion. In fact, the ancient Egyptian religion had affected the Nubians' beliefs.
So it looks like the ancient Egyptian belief affected the Nubians' beliefs. But do we have any proof about that in our ancient Egyptian temples?
Hi guys, good morning. First we need to know why the ancient Egyptian built the temples. So, the ancient Egyptian built the temples to honor, worship and also connected with their deities. There are some reasons of why the ancient Egyptian built the temples. The most known examples of temples, Luxor Temple, Karnak Temples, Dir el-Bahri Temple and Abu Simbel Temple.
What the temples included inside. In ancient Egyptian, temples were designed and included various architecture-specific purposes in religious and ceremonial practices. Here's what was included inside temples. First, pylon. It symbolized the horizon arch connecting the earthly and the divine realms, always decorated with battle scenes. Second, open courtyard. A large open area surrounded by columns accessible to the public during the festivals. Third, hypostyle hall. Grand hall filled with massive columns often decorated with hieroglyphics, inscriptions, and images of God and the Pharaoh. Only the priests and the Pharaoh were allowed to enter this place. Fourth, sacred sanctuary. The most sacred part of the temple located at the rear, where the statue of the deity at temple was kept. Only the priests and the Pharaoh were allowed to enter this place. Fifth, sacred lake. Many temples had a sacred lake within the temple complex for purification rituals that performed by priests. King Taharqa was one of the most prominent rulers of the 25th dynasty. Religious and temple constructions. Karnak Temple Complex. Taharqa expanded the Karnak Temple significantly, a grand colonnade of columns in the temple's first court. These columns, crowned with papyrus capitals, symbolize the connection between the heavens and the earth. He also commissioned obelisks and inscribed walls with reliefs depicting his devotion to Amun and his divine kingship. Temple of Mut at Karnak, he contributed to the restoration and enhancement of the Temple of Mut, further emphasizing his support for Thebes as the religious center of Egypt. Jebel Bakr. Taharqa continued to develop the Temple of Amun at Jebel Barkil, Nubia's spiritual heart. Pyramids and funerary architecture. Taharqa's pyramid, located at Nuri in Nubia, was one of the largest and the most impressive constructed during the 25th dynasty. His burial complex included richly decorated chapels and inscriptions that emphasized his achievements.
During the Nubian dynasty, the most important lady, Amun-Redis, wife of god Amun, built a tomb temple for herself near Medinat Habo.
The temple of Amun-Redis is part of the Karnak temple complex in Luxor, dedicated to the goddess Mut, the consort of the god Amun. Amun-Redis was one of the powerful royal women of the 25th dynasty, holding the title of goddess wife of Amun, played a significant role in Egypt's administration and religious practices during her time.
Now we can understand that the ancient Egyptians didn't care about color or even beliefs, they just care about civilized people.